You mentioned Terry Bollea. Is it
Yeah.
true that you told him, don't try this wrestling stuff? You're probably not going to make any money. Did you say that, Steve Keirn?
Why is that the only thing anybody ever come up with, including Terry? No, I didn't tell it to him like that. Terry was
Hold on. Let me find the actual quote. You didn't tell him that?
Yeah, you find the actual quote, and I'll tell you what I told him.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's in this book right here. And don't forget, when you get this book, to get my author's book, The Bohemian Rhapsody, because that's the history of the wrestling in the Bahamas, which is really fascinating. Nobody knows about. But he wrote another book, and it's out right now. But I did tell Terry. Terry grew up with me. There was myself, Dick Slater, Mike Graham, Dennis McCord, who is Austin Idol. Let me see, did I leave anybody out? Terry. But we all grew up and went to the same elementary, junior high. Well, we went to different junior highs, but we went to the same high school. He was 2 years younger than me. And he would go to the wrestling matches every Tuesday night and sit in the same seat. And when I first started going in front of the Tampa audience, I'd see him out there. But he would come and see me at a beach that we went to in South Tampa, where I had a little sailboat, a Hobie Cat, and I'd go out there and he'd come up. He was a bass guitar player in a rock and roll band here in Tampa. And he'd say, "Hey, Steve, man, you got to get me in the wrestling business, man. I really love the wrestling business. You got to get me in." Well, I had about as much pull as nobody. I mean, when you're starting out, you don't have the authority or the rights to say, "Hey, yeah, come on down with me. I'll break you in." But I just would blow him off and say, "Hey, you're not going to make any money doing this shit. You're making tons of money being a rock star, and all you do is play a guitar. What do you want to do this for?" And so that subject comes up on every occasion when we're in front of people together and, talking and telling stories. "Yeah, Steve, how much money I'm going to make in the wrestling business?" "Yeah, Terry, I get it. Okay. To me, again, an opinion, they're one of the greatest icons ever. And he was the start of a revolution in this industry that took it into the cable industry like phenomenally. You can point fingers at other people and say, "Oh no, he was bigger. Oh no, he was bigger." Not to me. And it's not because I went to school with him, and it's not because he's like a best friend or a close friend, because we're just friends, just normal buddies from school. But anyway, both schools, wrestling and high school. But he did it. He, with that movie that he was in, Rocky, that was really red hot, man. That was the hot movie, and he had a good part, and he played it well. Most of the time, wrestlers up to that time had been like chump change or job guys. But anyway, so he took it to another level, no doubt. But he did make money. I was totally wrong about that
one. Let's talk about the book.
Okay.
Where can people get the book?
Amazon. Right now it's on Amazon. And I mean, never having a book before. I mean, I got the mentality of a third grader. I couldn't write a whole lot. So I've got a great writer, Ian Douglas, that took all of my storytelling and, made it into a really good book, easy to read. I read it. And the only thing I read is the Bible. And so when I can read a book 400 pages long, it went easy for me because it was my life story. But now, since it's been out, people have, made comments and reviews about how easy a reading it is. And it's like they're sitting in the car talking to me, where they're hearing the stories like they're there, or they wish I'd do an audio book where I would read it so they hear my voice telling the stories. But I've been so complimented, and the reviews and the reaction I've gotten from it, it's because I don't really try to trash anybody in the book. So people are looking for a book where I'm trying to run other guys down, or I'm trying to run, promoters down or whatever. I might see a few things that are, just come from the heart, that were times that passed by. But I mean, even Vince, as much as we went through and my 14 years working with him, I mean, when it was all said and done, after FCW, I basically walked away with it with no hard feelings towards anybody, because the way I looked at it is they had supported me and my family. My kids went through college. My son's a doctor. I mean, everything's happened and he was paying the bills. And so I was working for somebody, and whatever he was doing, that's his business. And there's no hard feelings about anybody. So I don't write to try to trash people. There's some things I could have wrote. There's some other things I could have embellished. But sometimes I watch, as a matter of fact, sometimes I watch podcasts, and I've seen guys from my era get on and just lie. I mean, I've been there, and they're lying. I mean, they're telling a story and they're not telling the truth. And I'm going like, what are you doing? And I mean, they went from being sometimes friends to almost like, so you're telling a story about me and you weren't even in the dressing room, but you're making me sound bad. There must be some heat there. But I mean, in the book, I could took some jabs, but I didn't. And I could have really, gone through some of the really hard times. I mean, I buried a lot of friends. I mean, over the years, overdoses, accidents. I mean, things that, suicides and stuff. And I could have really, really gone after them, but I didn't want to do that. This book is to be handed down to young people that are interested in the business to see some of the, the pioneers. And then I'm no pioneer. I started in 1972. The wrestling business has been around since the beginning of TV. So far as for whatever it's worth, is some of the older guys and what the differences was of regionalized territories into the cabling and all of that. But not only the good times, but the bad times, the hard times, injured times. You didn't get paid when you got injured. So you didn't have any money for your family. And, you were strung from one check to another if you got it. And I mean, so I told those stories. I told those stories of growing up without a dad as a prisoner of war. I mean, that's not something to make bad comments about other people. It's something to tell a story of this is what Steve's life was. That was my life. And for whatever credits I have in the wrestling business, it's the history that backs up how I got there. I didn't just drop in at 50 and now all of a sudden I'm at FCW. I mean, there was a buildup to all of that. So also designed for my grandchildren to read. There's no F-bombs. There's no foul language. And I'm just as guilty as anybody. I mean, you don't want to be in the car with me in traffic if you're one of my grandkids. When the light turns green, that means go. And you're going to hear my horn and you might hear something else. But the idea is I want my kids, my grandkids to read it and not, be in a situation where they're reading a bad language or they're reading bad situations or whatever. We can all talk about bad things, and that's what most people want to hear about. So I'm pre-warning anybody, if they're wanting to hear trash, they ain't going to get it. You're just going to hear a story. You're going to hear a lot of stories, but, hopefully they're funny. Hopefully they entertain. Hopefully they give you appreciation for, what guys go through and girls go through in this industry and hardships and the good times and the bad. And so I'm hoping to give a total appreciation to the wrestling business, but I'm also hoping to leave a legacy of a story behind about my life.
That's great. Well, again, it's the Keirn Chronicles Volume 1 at Amazon. I'm going to put the link to this book in the bio of these videos. So anyone that wants, all you can do is click on it, take you right to the book, pick it up. It's an awesome read.